Jagdeep is walking by. This guy, shame on you. You have no shame. Jagdeep is a thief. In fact, he has no shame walking by us. He even laughed, knowing that our funds are going to genocide, are funding genocide! We will not let these regions, these top officers of the University of California determine where our funds go. We have every right to determine where our funds go. They don't! Now we're going to get started with the press conference. The graduate students for Justice in and the Rank and File Caucus of UAW conducted this research paper called the White Paper. In it, it exposes only some of the investments of the UC Regents and how our money is being used to fund occupation, to fund massacres, to fund genocide. Give it up for our first speaker for the press conference. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you for being here. I am here to deliver a press release. How's this? I'll keep it here, thank you. I am here to deliver a press release on behalf of graduate students organizing with Graduate Students for Justice in Palestine and Rank and File Workers for a Democratic Union Caucus of UAW 4811 here at UCLA. We are gathered today outside of Luskin Hotel and Conference Center, where the UC Regents inside will deliberate the various misuses and abuses of the UC's $180 billion endowment, ranging from self-dealings for their financial interests to staggering entanglements with the military war machine and profits from genocide of Palestinians. Of course, Palestinians in Gaza are now entering the second consecutive night of Israeli bombardment after Israel sabotaged a ceasefire deal, leaving millions of Palestinians at risk as they resume their death and destruction. Of course, these actions never really stopped. During the ceasefire, at least 3 Palestinians were killed per day on average by the IDF. The Israeli government is not only using snipers, drones, and US-supplied military technology to commit this genocide. It has also prevented the entrance of food, water, and materials needed for crucial infrastructure in Gaza. Israel has cut off electricity to desalination plants, withheld humanitarian aid, and bombed displaced Palestinians attempting to return to their homes. But this gruesome violence does not happen in a vacuum. The past several weeks have also seen staggering attacks on civil rights in the United States to suppress any criticism of Israel or the US's actions. Columbia University's spineless administration has revealed itself as little more than an appendage of Trump's reactionary political machine. Rather than challenging the retributive removal of $400 million in federal funding, Columbia has fully submitted to the Trump administration's demands, firing academic workers, expelling students, and even assisting ICE in the abduction of several of its community members and searches of student property. In ushering in a police state aimed at silencing dissenting speech, Columbia has fundamentally shattered its academic community, making it abundantly clear that its priorities are defined as a financial institution beholding to its billionaire and ruling class overlords. As fascism encroaches on our campus, we can't help but ask, is UCLA next? The genocidal bombings in Gaza and escalated ethnic cleansing in the West Bank, in fact, have much in common with the LAPD's regime of surveillance in our city and UCLA's repression of pro-Palestinian dissent on our campuses. That connection is the UC Regents. More specifically, it is the policies enacted by the UC Regents, policies that restrict the speech of academic departments and target students for unjustifiable backlash for participating in civil disobedience. It is also the investments managed by the UC Regents, investments that quite literally fuel the development of bombs, missiles, aircraft, munitions, weapons components, cybersecurity, surveillance, and other military technology adopted by the U.S. military and Department of Defense, and finally, exported to Israel by our government. UC faculty, staff, workers are not just implicated in Israeli genocide through our tax dollars. The UC Regents appropriate every dollar we produce. From the reputation we have built for this school, from the labor we put into our jobs and our positions in research labs, and from the pensions we rely on for our financial stability. All the while, the UC profits from death, destruction, occupation, apartheid, and genocide. Not only the UC, but the UC Regents themselves, who benefit from business arrangements that don't even appear to comply with California law. While the Trump regime waged its unrelenting assault on free speech at Columbia University and around the country, our message is clear. UC Regents, you will not win. You can bend to the demands of the right wing, but no concession, no compromise will ever satisfy their crusade to silence support for Palestinian freedom. With these attacks on higher education and crucial research funding leaving so many UC researchers in the lurch, UCLA should be standing up for its community. Instead, the administration of our new chancellor, Julio Frank, has prioritized the creation of a new task force addressing anti-Israeli bias on campus. Where was Julio Frank when UC researchers had their funding ripped away, panicked to support their lab work, wondering what the future has in store? He was probably too busy making a video message to let thousands in the UCLA community know he had suspended the undergraduate and graduate chapters of Students for Justice in Palestine. All for calling out the violent and genocidal rhetoric of UC Regent Jay Shores. The UC is more dedicated to upholding its mutually beneficial relationship with the Trump administration and Israeli interests than the needs or interests of its students and employees. This fact is not surprising when you consider that the UC benefits financially from repression, policing, and war. Not only does the UC use our pensions and endowment to invest in portfolios of war profiteering companies, it does so while it undermines our labor and represses our freedom of speech. The UC is an imminent target of Trump and Elon Musk and their fanatical ghouls. The UC has more than enough money to stave off any threats to our funding from Trump. However, history shows that our unelected UC regents are most likely, at this very moment, discussing how they will use Trump's threats as a pretext for slashing hundreds of millions more from various departments to siphon into war profiteering portfolios, all while removing students deemed challenges to their parasitic enterprise. How do we know what the UC Regents are plotting? Over the last year, a group of concerned graduate students have traced the various financial holdings of UC Investments and other UC financial bodies, culminating in a startling 100-page report we are calling Unmasking UCLA. This report outlines the UC's considerable financial and research entanglements with both American and Israeli war profiteering and war crimes, from surveillance technology to militarization of law enforcement and more. As a result of this report, we can share a lower bound estimate of the UC's investments in companies tied directly to Israel's occupation and war machine. That number is $18.8 billion. These funds are siphoned from the UC's pension, endowment, and working capital pools and invested in industries of death and destruction. The UC is nothing short of an international patron of carnage. No university, let alone the flagship public institution of California, should profit from warfare and genocide. Until the UC decouples itself from the financialization of war, genocide, and occupation, it will continue to be aligned with the Trump administration's own goals to destroy dissent. In order to realign UC's priorities with protecting their communities in this unhinged regime, the UC must divest. Among the most disturbing of the UC's investments, though there are many, is the over $487 million in paid-in and committed capital to Apollo Global Management. Our report shows direct links between the infamous mercenary group of Blackwater and the Apollo funds that UC invests in. Among other atrocities, Blackwater mercenaries were responsible for the Nisour Square massacre that killed over a dozen Iraqi civilians in 2007. The report also reveals that the UC has over $600 million invested in Warburg Pincus, a firm that profits from a saturated chain of militarization and incarceration at the expense of the public. Warburg Pincus's investments include Allied Universal, the parent company of one of the world's largest private security forces that has formerly staffed Israeli prisons and continues to staff jails in greater Los Angeles today. Investments in the Warburg Pincus Fund that took TransIne Group, now one of the world's largest arms suppliers, public. The UC is also peculiarly entangled with Freylock, a middle market supplier of military components used in everything from missiles to combat gear. It should concern all of us greatly that several major arms dealers can trace their roots to early financial backing by the UC. Investment partners within the military industrial complex goes on. Sequoia Capital, which has invested billions in U.S. and Israeli weapons manufacturers, surveillance firms, and cybersecurity companies. Thoma Bravo, which acquired Gray Shift, now known as Magnet Forensics, is a phone hacking technology used by the CIA, FBI, ICE, and LAPD. And Blue Owl Capital, which invests in major government contractors like SpaceX and Israeli cybersecurity companies.
Oh, fight back! Fight back! Fight back! This hard fucking money to kill babies! They killed 400 people last night! Storm this shit, bro! Storm this shit! What the fuck are we doing? Fight back! Get away with it! Block them from coming in!
The UC is Our report reveals that UCLA conducts research on bomb manufacturing, hypersonic missiles, high-powered lasers, AI-assisted targeting, and military aircraft development. UCLA labs that even play a pivotal role in developing predictive policing technologies and surveillance tools.
Yesterday, 200 fucking people!
Okay, block them from
Our
coming in!
tuition!
We
You
can
guys
actually shut
got no
this down!
shame!
Around the country to track Americans, generate biased policing strategies targeting vulnerable communities, and hack into cell phones to expand the reach of state surveillance. These projects are often treated as pre-venture capital projects by the Department of Defense, which means they offload expert labor onto low-wage student researchers for refinement prior to testing in the battlefield. As the Trump administration attempts to cut funding for research and science, graduate students will continue to be pressured to work on projects that fuel the military-industrial complex. Suspected conflicts of interest among UC Regents who oversee the UC's investments while benefiting from their positions in the private sector. One of the most striking examples is that of UC Regent Jay Shores and former Regent Paul Wachter, who are the current vice chairman and chairman of the board, respectively, of United Talent Agency. Our report reveals that in 2022, the private firm EQT acquired the largest minority stake in UTA and appointed former Regent Paul Wachter as senior advisor and chairman of the board. All the while, the UC has pledged to contribute $200 million in the EQT fund that specifically owns UTA. Curiously, the UC also holds co-investments worth $151 million that began that very same year. These examples are only the tip of the iceberg in the connections our research has drawn between the University of California, UCLA, and the UC Regents on one hand, and war, devastation, genocide, surveillance, and occupation on the other. The entire white paper can be accessed at unmaskingucla.org. The UC system has divested before. Under immense student pressure, the UC Regents divested $3.1 billion from South Africa in 1986, taking a stand against apartheid. Today, students are demanding further action. 1. Divest all UC-wide and UCLA Foundation funds from companies and institutions involved in Israeli occupation, apartheid, and genocide of the Palestinian people. 2. Publicly disclose all UC-wide and UCLA Foundation assets and funding sources, including but not limited to contracts, grants, gifts, and investments. 3. Boycott all academic ties to occupation and genocide, including by terminating all gifts, grants, contracts, and endowed positions funded by weapons manufacturers directly perpetrating the genocide of Palestinians. And 4. Abolish all policing on our campus. UCLA has responded with violent repression and infringements on students' rights. Our report also details 289 reports of protesters, more than in UCLA's entire history prior to the spring 2024 quarter. Combined, $12.3 million spent on police crackdowns and UCLA's coordination with Zionist mobs who physically attacked students on campus. In good faith, UCLA has doubled down on surveillance, criminalized free speech, and colluded with law enforcement to suppress student activism. The university's actions expose their blatant hypocrisy. While claiming to uphold values of free speech and academic inquiry, they actively work to silence dissent against genocide. The UC wants us to keep our heads down and do our jobs. But how can we, when our work contributes to the policing and murder of innocent people across the world and in our city, when our jobs are under constant attack by calls for austerity, when our labor benefits the reputation of a school that doesn't care if we live or die, UCLA students and workers are not backing down. This report makes clear that divestment is not just a moral imperative, but an actionable demand. The university has the power and the precedent to sever ties with companies complicit in genocide. The question is, will it choose to stop profiting from war and occupation, or be forced to fulfill its duty as a public institution of higher education by those it's supposed to serve? For too long, the UC system has hidden behind bureaucracy and financial opacity. But students, workers, and faculty are making it clear. There is no neutrality in genocide. The UC and UCLA must disclose, divest, boycott, and abolish, and dismantle its complicity in war profiteering now. The UC Regents cannot hide. We will not rest until our university divests and we see a free Palestine within our lifetimes. Thank you. I will now pass the microphone to some of our allies in the UC Divest Coalition at UCLA, who will speak to some specific points of our divestment white paper and how the UC Regents and Frank's administration's actions have impacted their relationship with our university.
name is Aaron, and I am a mathematician and part of the Jewish Force for Peace at UCLA. My name is Aaron. I am a mathematician and part of Jewish Voice for Peace at UCLA and the UCLA Divest Coalition. Last spring, as Israel relentlessly bombed Gaza, I walked by the student encampment every day on my way to teach, and I saw in it a beautiful spark of liberation. UCLA has tried to extinguish that. UCLA has tried to extinguish the spark with police violence, but we are here to show that the Palestinian solidarity movement is still strong. We have researched and we have strategized, and today we bring the fight to the UC Regents. Last night, Israel broke the ceasefire with horrific carpet bombing in Gaza, killing over 400 Palestinians. This comes as no surprise because the Zionist genocide has been ongoing for over 76 years. The genocide is funded by the U.S. and supported by the University of California. The UC Regents are the governing body that controls investments profiting off genocide. They will not divest on their own, so we have to be here to put pressure on them to divest. We've seen the divestment strategy to work to combat racist apartheid in South Africa, and we will not rest until the UCs now divest from Israel. UC investments are designed with the objective to maximize profit. Due to the many sketchy funds, it's not always clear if they're maximizing profit for the endowment or for the UC Regents themselves. One part that is clear is the $1.6 billion that the UCs have invested in weapons manufacturers through index funds. This would be easy to divest, but the UC Regents won't consider it if it cuts into the smallest amount of their profits. Even more disturbing are the $5.3 billion the UC Regents have invested in private equity funds with ties to surveillance and military contractors in Israel. These funds have no transparency and no accountability for the material support of genocide. The past months have also brought reckless, racist executive orders from the Trump administration, which continues to support ethnic cleansing and genocide in Gaza, continuing from the Biden administration. Executive orders include attacks on students and faculty of color, ethnic studies curriculum, as well as threats to student protesters who speak up for Palestine. Yes. Combined with the executive orders on immigration, these attacks have already led to the arrest, the kidnapping of Mahmoud Khalil by ICE, who's being held captive, separated from his pregnant wife. UCLA has announced an anti-Semitism task force in concert with Trump executive orders that equate anti-Semitism with criticism of Zionist genocide. As a Jew who is part of the Palestine solidarity movement, I can tell you the accusations of anti-Semitism at UCLA have been false, and they've been targeted to repress pro-Palestinian speech on campus. We believe Trump will be coming to UCLA soon, and the UC Regents are not going to stand up for the students. Instead, we must all stand up to resist fascism. Countless faculty, researchers, and graduate students have experienced uncertainty, financial precarity, and confusion in the months since Trump has taken office. Facing historical budget cuts and assaults on federal research funding, faculty and researchers have been left in the dark, while Julio Frank's administration tells them to just wait and see. The fear our community is feeling is a direct result of the investment policies that place profit over people. The UC Regents have aligned themselves themselves with the interests of business executives and billionaires like Elon Musk. These same business interests attack the funding structures that our universities need to survive, all while the UC profits. The loss of funding puts researchers in the UC in a horrible position. With little economic stability, contracts from government agencies like the Department of Defense and the Department of Homeland Security look more attractive. These contracts are like the $1.3 million to improve BAE Systems bomb manufacturing processes. Contracts like the $1.6 million to research missiles launched from F-15 aircraft. Contracts like the millions received to develop automatic target recognition technology, just like the one Israel uses in the massacre of civilians in Gaza. These military contracts are fine for the UC Regents, who already profit off death and destruction, but it is not fine for us. UC students, workers, and faculties do not want to design the next generation of war technologies. We do not want to be extorted for lucrative government contracts while the UC offers us no alternatives. Graduate students do not want to be forced to stay in complicit labs with no transitional funding while their labor is exploited for surveillance and security technology. The UC Regents' silence while the academic employees are under attack reflects what we already know. UC Regents are driven by profit and don't represent our interests. We must stand up for the whole university community in solidarity against fascism and genocide. When student rights are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When student rights are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When Gaza is under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When Gaza is under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
Okay, we're going to introduce our next speaker for today. Please welcome Students for Justice in Palestine.
Hello, we're here today to speak on behalf of Student Justice in Palestine at UCLA. Yesterday, just in hours alone, the Zionist entity resumed its all-out escalation of genocide in Palestine, slaughtered over 412 people in their sleep. 412 people at least. They were all sleeping in tents. They didn't have homes because they were all destroyed. They're all hungry. They're ready to wake up to eat whatever they can find before they fast for Ramadan. Entire bloodlines are being wiped out. Right now, as we speak, all eyes should be on Palestine. People in Gaza are crying. They're asking for help. They're innocents. They're children. They're dying. Someone in Gaza cried saying, intensity of bombing in western Gaza City was so violent that many people killed were thrown out of their buildings. Their flesh was collected from the streets, the yard of other homes. You realize now it's a luxury in Gaza if you can find a dead body full. People collecting their loved ones, they're collecting their hands, they're collecting their legs. They're hoping that they can find their loved one at least in full body so they can bury them. Our minds and bodies are flooded by the cringe and the slaughter. My heart bleeds for every Palestinian child, man, women, resistant fighter, and martyr. My heart is in Gaza, and I'm sick to my stomach that I even have to explain to people why we should care about this.
Entire bloodlines are being wiped out in Gaza as we speak. Every camera that is pointing to us right now should also be pointed to Gaza. A week ago, UCLA's Chancellor, Julio Frank, sent out an email proclaiming that UCLA supports international and undocumented students. How do we feel about that? This is only a few weeks after he appointed a new campus safety vice chancellor, Steve Lurie, who said on the record, that UCLA police will comply with ICE orders to locate students and intervene to support ICE. How do we feel about that? one that is used by the Zionist state to target civilians in Palestine. And if that isn't bad enough, several of Orbital's most nefarious projects were developed in partnership with researchers at the UC. Paraton Corporation, which provides background checks to help the Department of Homeland Security deny asylum to immigrants, discriminate against them, and deport them. They invest in Global Canine Protection Group, which is a company that trains attack dogs for the Department of Homeland Security to attack and intimidate immigrants and to maintain violence at the borders. How do we feel about that? The UC is not just complicit, but an enthusiastic participant in the militarization of our borders, our communities here, and our communities internationally. It is no surprise that the UC is so quick to lash out against students demanding justice in Palestine. As the Trump administration enacts its fascist regime, the UC is all too happy to co-sponsor this repression to protect its own financial interests. Their pockets are lined with blood money. They are meeting today, tomorrow, and Thursday here on our campus. No wonder at all that they fund the killings of Palestinians in Palestine and the abductions of Palestinians on U.S. soil. At Brown, the deportation of Rasha Alawi. At Colombia, the abductions of Mahmoud Khalil and Lekha Cordia. The forced deportation of Ranjani Srivasan. We know that these forced deportations and imprisonment by ICE, Border Patrol, and the Department of Homeland Security are a direct extension of the violence, mass torture, and dehumanization that Israel has weaponized against Palestinian prisoners for decades! The repression we face here on this campus is but a granule of what Palestinians face every single day of their lives. But like the steadfast people of Gaza, of Palestine, we will not be intimidated into silence. They will not separate us from Palestine. No border walls, no prison cells, no surveillance technology, no abductions will make us afraid. Nor will it break the lifeline that is our love for the land and people of Palestine. Over a year ago, Gaza broke the prison doors, and we know that it is only a matter of time until Palestine is victorious. Gaza will rise!
Give it up again for Students for Justice in Palestine! Palestine is not for sale!
Palestine is not for sale.
We won't give up, we will not fail!
We won't give up, we will not fail.
Palestine is not for sale!
Palestine is not for
We
sale.
won't give up, we will not fail!
We won't give up, we will not fail.
UC, you can hide!
UC, you can hide.
You're supporting genocide!
You're supporting genocide.
You're supporting genocide!
You're supporting genocide.
Thank you guys. We're gonna have our last and then we're gonna rally. Give it up for rank and file.
My name is Peter. I'm speaking on behalf of the Rank and File Caucus of UCLA's chapter of UAW 4811. Which is the Union of Student Teaching Assistants and Researchers. Yesterday, Israel resumed its genocidal bombing of Gaza, and once again, the videos started streaming in of the bodies of hundreds of murdered children. Israel is committing a genocide live streamed before the eyes of the world. It is able to operate with impunity because the U.S. is not just financing this genocide, it is a direct participant in it. It is no accident that the renewed bombing of Gaza is taking place immediately after the U.S. bombing of Yemen. These actions are coordinated and co-directed at the highest levels of the American state. And one of the most remarkable things about this is that people are actually making money off of this. People are actually making money off of mass murder. Companies like Boeing, Northrop, Raytheon, Lockheed, right here, located in El Segundo, that the Regents invest public taxpayer money in, are making those 2,000-pound bombs. They're dropping on refugee camps and hospitals and making millions and millions of dollars. The UC invests hundreds of millions of dollars in arms manufacturers and receives grant money and gifts from these institutions. In effect, this is a means for these companies to outsource research to public institutions, paying only a small portion of the bill for research and researchers that they will later capitalize on. The UC also co-administers the Lawrence Livermore and Los Alamos National Laboratories, which help design and maintain the U.S. nuclear weapons arsenal. And the UC is a major institution with the financial resources of a small country, over $100 billion, and it is an integral part of California's military-industrial complex. The UC holds over $1 billion worth of investments in the fascist Elon Musk's business empire, including Tesla, SpaceX, XAI, and Twitter. The university is the largest owner of apartments in California and has contributed to the massive rent increases for working people and the poor. At the same time, it invests $4.5 billion in the Blackstone Real Estate Investment Trust, which is notorious for being the largest corporate slumlord in the world. It goes in, Blackstone goes in, buys up housing, raises the rents, and evicts tenants that can't pay, and it is also fighting against rent control legislation in California. The UC and Blackstone are partner slumlords. Just 2 years ago, the UC infused cash into the Blackstone Real Estate Investment Trust when a mass exodus of investors triggered a run on the fund. UC bailed them out. The UC is supposed to be a public institution, but it is now taking part in the capitalist healthcare system and driving down its workers' wages in order to compete against Kaiser, Sutter, and other supposedly non-profit healthcare insurance companies. In response to state funding cuts, the Regents have spent decades increasing tuition, including a $3,400 increase that will be imposed on non-resident students beginning next fall, and they have imposed a regime of punitive austerity on graduate student workers after our 2022 strike, cutting TA appointments, increasing workloads and class sizes, and defunding departments. Universities like the UC increasingly function to channel the younger generations into a modern form of debt servitude. Student debt, which stands at $1.77 trillion nationally as of January 2025, serves as collateral for administrators to issue bonds. The wave of campus construction and property acquisitions is largely funded through this mechanism, with tuition revenue from indebted students covering the minimum payments required to service debts to bondholders. The significant reduction in state funding for universities has also left them increasingly dependent upon private donations to fund programs and build up endowments that are run like hedge funds. Meanwhile, university leadership has raised the salaries of the UC chancellors to around $1 million per year. A 2010 investigation by the Sacramento News and Review found that, quote, some members of the Board of Regents have benefited from the placement of hundreds of millions of university dollars into investments, private deals, and publicly held enterprises with significant ties to their own personal business activities. This investigation also found that Wall Street financiers Richard Bloom, husband of Senator Dianne Feinstein, and Paul Wachter had steered university assets, quote, toward largely unregulated and risky alternative investments such as private equity and private real estate deals. And while management is privatizing our university and spending billions buying hospitals, financing construction projects, and bailing out the world's largest slumlord, UC workers and students cannot afford the cost of living. The one thing we always hear is that the UC just doesn't have the money to pay workers a living wage or to address understaffing, which is pushing workers to their limits. That's why they've refused to bargain in good faith with ASME and UPTI, so they say, because they just don't have the money. And at the same time, the university is spending tens of millions on union-busting lawyers to prevent unions from striking and protecting the health and safety of workers, and tens of millions more on police and private security and anti-protest weapons. While UC workers cannot afford to live in California, the Democrat-run government supports the trillions of dollars spent on war and supports the genocide in Gaza. The UC Regents are the mouthpiece of the Democratic Party and California's corporate interests. They are not elected. They do not represent the people of this university or this state. They represent the corporate interests that are profiting from a genocide. That is why the Regents have attempted to attack and smear the anti-genocide protests at this university. From the moment the protests began, the Regents have waged a smear campaign against the students, spreading far-right lies and talking points to vilify the students, and I quote, as hateful, despicable, reprehensible, racist, appalling, shocking, shameful, etc. No such words about genocide, just about their own students. They have turned our campus into a mini police state with an entire garrison of private security guards that harass and racially profile our students and workers. All of this in order to defend the financial and political interests they represent. They have deliberately sought to build up a McCarthyite atmosphere on our campuses in order to justify crackdowns against students and workers. It should be said clearly, the UC leadership is directly responsible for inciting and enabling the chain of violent attacks on the student encampments, culminating in the Zionist fascist mob that attacks students with metal pipes, tear gas, and bear spray, leaving 25 students hospitalized. And the Regents would have us believe that they are the ones defending democratic rights and the students are the purveyors of violence. Like something out of Orwell, up becomes down, nonviolent protest is called violence, opposing a genocide is called extremism, attacking the right to protest and free speech is called democracy. And if you don't like the Regents' version of democracy, they'll beat it into you with a police baton. What do these unelected corporate executives and political careerists know about democratic rights? About as much as Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. The truth is, they are talking heads. They have no principles of their own. They don't even write their own statements. They have corporate PR departments to do that. They and the political and corporate interests they stand for are enemies of democratic rights. And this goes above all for an ex officio regent by the name of Gavin Newsom, who called in the California Highway Patrol on a peaceful encampment, bringing Gavin Newsom, who now acts buddy-buddy with Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk, two well-known fascists. The Regents and the Democratic Party more broadly have helped set the stage for firings, arrests, union busting, and police repression under Donald Trump, who is surrounded by a cabal of fascists and actual anti-Semites and is moving to jail students and activists for the crime of protesting a genocide and overturn democratic rights and the Constitution. Trump is going to war against the working class. He and the fascist cabal around him are carrying out Project 2025, which aims to destroy the trade unions, privatize public services, implement mass deportations, arrest political opposition, and destroy democratic rights. We should be clear, Trump is at the head of a well-organized conspiracy to overturn the Constitution and establish a dictatorship. And the universities are being targeted as a testing ground for suppressing protests more broadly. At Columbia University, the administration has assisted Trump in demonizing and repressing the protests. They have aided and abetted the ICE raids, including the illegal abduction and detention of Mahmoud Khalil. They have also expelled students, including Grant Minor, the president of Student Workers of Columbia, 2 days before the union was to begin contract negotiations. Just as Columbia is working hand in glove with Trump, the UC will do the same. Trump wants to go to war with public unions. Well, the UC has already been at war with its workers and unions for years. They have already built up a McCarthyite atmosphere that plays directly into the hands of the far right. They have already built up a police apparatus and normalized its use against students. They have already retaliated against students, staff, faculty, and ethnic studies departments. They have already provided the smears that will be used to justify a worse stage of repression. Not only will they fail to protect our immigrant students and workers from deportation, they will fail to oppose political persecution. They will continue to enable them. However, a mass movement is developing in this country. Trump is attacking millions of immigrants, millions of federal workers, millions of trade unionists, millions of people who depend upon Social Security and Medicare. The working class in this country has a great history of struggle. The great general strikes of the 1930s that built the industrial unions. And there will be mass struggles against these attacks by Trump. And when ICE comes onto our campus, or members of our community come under attack, our unions must be ready to mobilize mass protests of students and workers and prepare for united strike action. In the months to come, we can and must continue to oppose genocide and war, and we must connect this struggle to the fight to defend immigrants from mass deportations, to defend our unions, and to oppose the slide toward dictatorship. Abolish the regents, down with Netanyahu and Trump, down with Zionism and fascism, free, free Palestine.
I move into our final section, which is our demands. If you remember, I listed 4 demands: divest, disclose, boycott, and abolish. With these demands in mind, we have one specific ask of the UC Regents during their 3 days of meetings on our campus. Come outside! The UC Regents in about 5 minutes are going to begin an open session held by their Investments Committee. For the first 30 minutes of that session, they will hear public comment, and we will uplift our demand. Come outside! The UC Regents have plenty of time in today's Investments Committee meeting to come down here and answer our questions, and we have plenty of them. Come outside and answer for themselves. I'm now going to pass it back off to SJP.
We will not rest. Disclose, divest. We will not stop. We will not rest. Disclose, divest. We will not stop. We will not rest.
Disclose, divest. We will not stop. We will not rest.